What if I told you one of the greatest JRPG stories of all time just got reborn? What if two legendary games from the golden age of RPGs were remastered with love, passion, and that warm nostalgic magic that made you fall in love with gaming in the first place? This is a Lunar Remastered Collection, and it's more than just a simple coat of paint, but let me tell you why. If you've never played Lunar Silver Star Story or Lunar 2 Eternal Blue, I'm honestly jealous, because you're about to experience two of the most heartfelt, emotional, and magical JRPGs ever made, for the very first time in a way that's never looked or felt better. And if you're like me and you lived with these games in your heart for decades, then trust me, this remasters everything we've dreamed of. Today we're diving deep into the stories, the gameplay, what's new, what's changed, and most importantly, how Lunar feels to play in 2025. So before we get started, let's just talk about what Lunar is. Let's dive into the stories of these games, because at the heart of Lunar is a narrative that will stick with you long after you finish playing. The Lunar Remastered Collection offers two of the most memorable emotional tales in RPG history: Lunar Silver Star Story and Lunar 2 Eternal Blue. Starting with Lunar Silver Star Story, you take on the role of Alex, a young boy who dreams of becoming a Dragon Master just like the legendary hero Dyne. He's joined by Rammus, Nash, Mia, Jessica, and Tempest. This adventure is perhaps one of the most exhilarating experiences that any JRPG has to offer. In addition, Silver Star Story perhaps has one of the greatest love stories to exist in gaming, and some of the most heartbreaking moments alongside it. Yeah, it'll make you cry, but it'll also make you smile. It's got that perfect balance to keep you enthralled in the story. And as for Lunar 2, while Lunar Silver Star Story is an incredible adventure, Lunar 2 Eternal Blue takes the storytelling to a whole new level. This is where the series really starts to explore deeper themes, with a more complex narrative that builds on everything the first game started. Taking place 1,000 years after Lunar Silver Star Story, in Eternal Blue you take on the role of Hero, a young man who craves adventure. He's joined by a memorable cast of characters, including Lucia, a mysterious woman that descended from the Blue Star, Ronfar, the troubled former priest who hides behind a mask of carefree humor, and Jean, a brilliant but spirited dancer with a dark past. Threatened by an ominous being named Zophar, Lucia must travel across the world to alert the goddess Althena to help protect the Silver Star. What makes Lunar 2 stand out is how much darker and more mature its narrative is. Where the first game explored personal growth and heroism, Lunar 2 dives into the complexity of destiny and the cost of power. It's not just about saving the world, it's about the price each character must pay to achieve their goals. The themes of family, sacrifice, and the burden of legacy are explored in a way that makes Lunar 2 feel like an epic tale of self-discovery, one that's far more intricate and emotionally charged than its predecessor. So story is great and all, but what good is story if the gameplay is bland and boring? Luckily, Lunar is great in both aspects. At the surface, it may seem like another generic JRPG, but the turn-based combat, world exploration, and all-around world in general are what make these games timeless. I guess we should start this off talking about the combat, as that's kind of the biggest aspect of any JRPG. Firstly, you don't have random encounters. You can see each and every enemy on screen. Touch the enemy symbol and a battle will begin. Both Lunar Silver Star Story and Lunar 2 Eternal Blue, they are turn-based, but they're not exactly basic. In Lunar, it's not just about hitting the attack button. In fact, that will give you a one-way ticket to the game over screen. Positioning is one of the key aspects of the Lunar battle systems, and it makes all the difference. And you'll need to balance your offense, your defense, your magic in order to create the perfect team dynamic. With every combat system, the meat and potatoes really lies in the special moves. Watching Alex unleash his Dragon Master abilities or Nash cast his devastating spells feels incredibly satisfying. The animations are stunning in HD, and each move feels meaningful as it ties directly into the character's growth. Lunar 2's combat is more or less the same as the first game, but the characters get more battle abilities and a crest system is introduced. In addition to your two accessories, you can equip up to 2 crests and you can mix and match them for different effects. Some give new spells, some give more attack range, and some can immensely increase your attack power. This adds an incredible amount of customization and can allow each and every character to be versatile and usable in any situation. No longer will you have characters that are useless if an enemy resists a certain element or resists physical attacks. The deeper customization really makes the combat system a joy to play. One thing that really makes Lunar stand out for me is the world and the exploration. The towns, the dungeons, and the huge world map. They're all part of the world building that makes Lunar feel so alive. In Lunar 2, you get larger maps, bigger towns, and even better dungeon design. Each new area you discover is filled with excitement and NPCs that have some of the best dialogue in any JRPG I've ever played. While silly, this kinda makes you feel connected to the world in a way that few other RPGs manage to do. Whether you're exploring haze-filled forests of Lunar 1, or braving the mysterious ruins in Lunar 2, the environment keeps you on your toes, constantly rewarding you for exploring. Though I will say, some of the dungeons can be frustrating. As I mentioned before, you can see the enemies on screen before you encounter them, so you have the choice to try and avoid them. But unfortunately, with the way a lot of the dungeons are designed, it's pretty difficult to avoid enemies. Sometimes it's downright impossible. It's not a complaint, but it can get frustrating if you're trying to conserve MP. Anyways, the remastered versions of these games really bring each and every location to life with its enhanced graphics and updated details, making exploration feel fresh and exciting, even for fans who have been playing these games for the past 20 or almost 30 years. So this is a remaster, and a remaster of games that are over 20 years old at that. So naturally, lots has changed, from presentation to visuals to the audio, even voice acting, so let's talk about that. First, we'll talk about the visuals. Well, in a few words, they pop. The developers didn't just update the graphics, they kind of reimagined them. The sprites have been touched up, not enough to make them feel brand new, but touched up slightly to make them blend in with the new backgrounds. The remaster has taken the environments and locations from the original games and enhanced them, making the towns, dungeons, and landscapes feel even more immersive. The anime cutscenes that were already iconic in the original are now fully restored in HD, the animation is smoother, sharper, and it looks amazing. Those cinematic moments that blew our minds back in the day, they've been given new life and are more breathtaking than ever. Every frame feels like a work of art, and if you're a fan of those old anime cutscenes, you're going to love how they pop on modern screens. But what about that soundtrack? I know, the Lunar soundtrack is iconic, you don't have to be a hardcore fan to know that. Well, in this remaster, you get the option to choose between the original classic soundtrack from the PlayStation 1 or the brand new, newly remastered one. The remastered tracks sound absolutely gorgeous, with every note, every melody popping with clarity and richness. The original music, though, still has that special nostalgic magic, and it's amazing that you can still hear those timeless tracks in their original glory. Whether you're reliving the old moments or hearing music for the first time, the music and sound effects of the Lunar Remastered Collection are, at lack of a better word, they're amazing. Now let's talk about those quality of life improvements, because these are the kinds of things that truly elevate a remaster. Do you remember the original UI from the Lunar games, that old school clunky menu system? Well, it's been completely revamped for a smoother, more user-friendly experience. Thankfully, they've changed the item management system for Silver Star. No longer do you have to equip items to individual characters in order to use them in battle. You just have one bag of items, similar to Eternal Blue. Does this make the game easier? Sure it does. However, if you prefer an experience closer to the original game, you can use the original item system if you so choose. There's also a battle speed up option up to a max of 3 times speed. Menus feel cleaner and more intuitive. It's easy to see that the devs wanted to keep that classic feel of the game, but with modern conveniences that make playing in 2025 so much more enjoyable. Graphically, you have the option of using a classic mode, which uses the original 4x3 screen size, original sprites, and original animations. More or less, it'll be exactly the same, minus the voice acting and script, which I'll go into in just a moment. Or you have the new remastered mode, which is widescreen with all the graphical touch-ups. Regardless of what you choose, you still have access to speed up both soundtracks and both item modes. So this is purely an aesthetic choice. Personally, I decided to go with remastered because, well, it's gorgeous. So now let's talk about the things that are raising a few concerns. Namely, it's the script, the anime cutscenes, the songs, the bromides, and finally the voice acting. So I brought these all up in an earlier video of mine about a month to a month and a half ago. Firstly, let's talk about the script. The original script was beautiful, but let's be honest, it was a product of the ages. It had quite a few terms that wouldn't be very well received in 2025. Words that would have been offensive now but were more socially acceptable back in the 90s and early 2000s. As well as it had a lot of pop culture jokes that wouldn't make much sense to anyone that wasn't around in the late 90s or early 2000s, or might cause a little bit of licensing issues. So the Lunar Remastered Collection, both 1 and 2, have a brand new script. And while it isn't exactly the same as the original, it still has that silly and fun feeling. It captures the magic that working designs delivered all those years ago. So while it was different, I still really enjoyed it, and it made me laugh a lot more than I expected to. As a whole, I was incredibly happy with the new script and I enjoyed it. Now let's jump into the voice acting. So at this point, I know we've all seen the story trailer that shows the voice acting in the remaster. The voice acting has been completely redone in both Lunar games to go along with the new script. This was something I was concerned about because the voice acting is probably one of the most memorable parts of the games for me, so I was worried that they would ruin the experience. Luckily, each and every piece of voice work in the remasters of both the Lunar 1 and Lunar 2 are amazing. I won't say it's better, but it is different. It might hit you the first time you notice it's different, but it will definitely grow on you. The only voice actor I truly miss from the original releases is Galleon's, voiced by John Truitt. But let's be honest, John Truitt's Galleon is iconic and legendary, and there is no matching that. However, there is one disappointing part of the voice acting that they changed in Lunar 2 that I was like, oh, that's not very cool. They changed two of the best battle quotes in Lunar 2. There is a point about halfway through the game where you get a character temporarily named Mystere. In the original, when you used an item with him, he would say, "Sample my goods."
Sample my goods!
But they changed that to, "Haha, take this."
Take this!
Which is kind of weird for an item. And then the one thing that I was really upset that they changed was when you used earth magic with him, and I'm not kidding, you need a spanking.
You need a spanking!
And they changed it to "Face my righteous judgment."
Face my righteous judgment!
Which is cool on its own, but it just doesn't match up to the hilarity of the original. It's not the end of the world, but it was a bit of a disappointment that they changed it. I know why they did it, but it's still kind of unfortunate. Next, I want to talk about certain anime cutscenes and bromides. So the two major cutscenes I was concerned about was Wings, the intro to Silver Star, and Wind's Nocturne, the song Luna sings on the boat. For those of you that are familiar with Lunar Silver Star Story and the PSP remake Silver Star Harmony, you will be aware that Xseed retranslated these songs to be more accurate to the Japanese lyrics. However, as a longtime fan of these games, these new retranslations hit completely different and didn't invoke the same feelings. Thankfully, the remaster uses the original translations, and while they no longer have the original vocalist Jennifer Steigel, I wasn't able to tell the difference between them until I was listening to them side by side. Here, just listen and you can tell me what you think.
Wishing on a dream that seems far off, hoping it will come today. Wishing on a dream that seems far off, hoping it will come today.
The new vocalist did an absolutely stellar job in capturing the original energy. I believe it was Jackie Lastra who sang them both, and she did a fantastic job. As for bromides, these are items that you can collect in both Lunar 1 and Lunar 2, featuring various women from the Lunar series. Some of them can be, quite provocative. I can confirm that they are just as you remember them. This also extends to hot spring scenes and other anime cutscenes, so that was a relief. One thing I was unable to determine was the difficulty. Lunar Silver Star Story Complete and Lunar 2 Eternal Blue Complete, when localized in North America by Working Designs, had the difficulty amped up. There was an enemy leveling system where they scaled bosses depending on Alex's level in Silver Star. This made some bosses absolute nightmares to fight. I want to say they no longer have the level scaling in Silver Star Story, but it's hard to say for sure. If you can figure out if it has a level scaling or not, make sure to come back and let me know, because I'm quite curious if they implemented this or not. And lastly, I know this will probably be fixed with a day 1 patch, but there were a bunch of graphical glitches in Lunar 1, namely a lot of Galleon spells during boss fights with him, and Mia's Blizzard spell. It doesn't affect the game at all, it's purely visual, but kinda takes you out of the experience. What makes all these improvements so special is they don't change the heart of what made Lunar great in the first place, other than the couple lines of mysterious dialogue. The charm, the emotion, the adventure, they're still there. What's been improved is the overall experience. It's like taking a classic painting and adding just the right amount of detail so that it stands out even more without losing the soul of the original. And you know what? It works. The Lunar Remastered Collection is both a love letter to longtime fans and an invitation for new players to experience something truly special. Alright, so here's the bottom line. If you haven't played Lunar before, this is your chance to experience a few of the greatest JRPGs ever made. If you grew up with these games like I did, the Lunar Remastered Collection is a love letter to everything we remember and cherish about the series. The emotions, the characters, and the adventure. They're all back, and they're better than they've ever been before. Whether you're new to Lunar or a longtime fan, this collection will make you fall in love with the series all over again. Don't miss it, and hey, drop a comment below. What's your favorite Lunar moment, and are you looking forward to picking these up when they get released on April 18th for the PS4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and PC? If you love this deep dive into the Lunar Remastered Collection, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss an adventure. But don't stop here. Check out another video right now for good RPG goodness. This has been Shinky, thanks so much for watching, and until next week's video, have a wonderful day.